Hi guys, my name is Deborah Perez, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about religion and science and whether or not they conflict. I found this research article on the Pew Research site. So to begin with, let me tell you what this report is about. So this report examines the American public's perceptions of the relationship between science and religion and the views of religious groups across a range of science-related topics. So, before I begin answering this question, do people think they conflict? I wanted to share why I chose this topic. So, I chose this topic because I grew up in a Christian home, but at the same time, I was always really interested in science and just education and knowledge and learning. And I always kind of felt like I had to choose between the two. If I was with um, religious people, I feel like they would feel uncomfortable with the topic of science, but if I was with people who love science, they felt uncomfortable with the topic of religion. So I just wanted to see what the public's perception of this is. So, to my surprise, 59% of people perceive religion and science to be in conflict, while 38% say they are mostly compatible. Out of those 59%, most of them are not religiously affiliated with a religion. And this also examined if people thought science conflicted with their personal beliefs. Also surprisingly, 69% of people said that science does not conflict with their own personal beliefs, while only 30% said that it did. So I found this to be very surprising. Um, to continue, do people think humans evolved over time? Honestly, I thought that this one was going to be a much greater divide. I thought for sure people with a religious background would not agree with humans evolving, but to my surprise, most people across America believe that humans evolved over time. With overall 65% of US adults believe humans evolved over time, 86% of religiously unaffiliated, 73% of white Catholics, 71% of white mainline Protestants, and 59% of Hispanic Catholics agree. So I found that very interesting. And this report also examines people's thoughts on biomedical issues, specifically genetic modification. So when it comes to genetic modification for intelligence, overall 83% of people oppose it, and that's about the same regardless of religious affiliation. And when it comes to genetic modification to reduce disease risk, overall 50% oppose it, so this one's a little more divided. And when it comes to bioengineering artificial organs for like lung transplants or heart transplants, only 23% of people oppose it, so people are more open to that idea. To continue, let's look at experimental drugs and treatment. So this is specifically drugs and treatment that have not been okayed yet, so they're still in their trial process. And overall, 54% favor access to it, and 46% oppose it. And interestingly enough, when it comes to Black Protestants, 60% oppose this idea, which I found interesting as well. To continue, let's look at food issues. So when it comes to food, overall 57% of US adults are against genetically modified foods, and 67% are skeptical that scientists have a clear understanding of genetic modification in foods, so they don't really think scientists know enough about it. And these beliefs are widely held across all religious groups. When it comes to growing foods with pesticides, 69% of people are against it, while 30% of people are okay with this idea. Next, we'll move on to animal testing. So this one is a little bit divided, not only in religious groups, but in general, because 47% of US adults are in favor of it. So that one's a bit tricky. So next, we'll go on to climate issues. So when it comes to climate issues, 50% of people believe humans are responsible, while 23% do think it's due to natural patterns, and 25% say there is no evidence. To move on, let's look at space issues. So 64% of US adults think the space station is a good investment, while 36% disagree, and majorities across all religious groups agree. And then next we'll look at astronauts. So 59% say astronauts are essential, while 41% disagree. And the only religious group that's divided about it are Black Protestants, which 47% say astronauts are essential, while the rest say that it is not. Next we'll look at government spending. So overall, 71% are pro-government investment in basic science research. Majorities of all major religious groups agree. This includes 86% of Hispanic Catholics and 77% of white mainline Protestants. So after looking at all of this information from this research that I found, I came to see that, there's a higher perception of science and religion conflicting than the actual conflict. And although there is some division about how the universe was created, whether or not we should use animals for scientific research, etc., most US adults, regardless of religion, agree on science-related issues such as humans evolving, biomedical issues, food issues, and space issues. Oftentimes we imagine ourselves standing in opposition against those who don't hold similar beliefs, but perhaps we are more in agreement than we think. And I think that that's something worth reflecting on. And I think that this research really shines light on that. And that's about it. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you for watching. Please check out this research. There's a lot of information that's very interesting, and I hope that you have learned something new. Thank you.